The shadows warning, the darkness of space had never felt so heavy. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of Luna Station, Earth's primary orbital defense platform, watching the massive shape that had appeared beyond Pluto's orbit. Just 6 hours ago, the alien vessel was enormous, easily the size of Earth's moon, its black surface seeming to absorb the light from distant stars. Elena had seen many things in her 30 years of military service, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The ship belonged to the HFY Empire, a name whispered in fear across the galaxy. For 3,000 years, they had swept through star systems like a plague, destroying entire civilizations and enslaving those who survived. No one had ever successfully resisted them until today, perhaps. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the alien vessel," reported Lieutenant Torres from her communications station. Her voice was steady, but Elena could see the fear in the young officer's eyes. "Put it through," Elena commanded, her own voice betraying none of the tension she felt. The main screen flickered, and suddenly the command center was filled with the image of something that belonged in humanity's worst nightmares. The HFY commander was tall and skeletal, with 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. Its face was a nightmare of chitin and glowing red eyes, and when it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "Humans of the 3rd planet," the creature began, its words translated by the universal communication protocols Earth had developed decades ago. "I am War Master Zethkar of the HFY Empire. Your species has lived in ignorance for too long. We have watched you spread across your small system like insects, believing yourselves to be alone in the universe." The alien leaned forward, its red eyes seeming to stare directly at Elena through the screen. "We are here to correct that ignorance. You have 72 of your hours to surrender completely. Disarm your pathetic fleets, hand over your leaders, and prepare your worlds for occupation. Resist, and we will demonstrate why 1,000 civilizations have knelt before the HFY." The image shifted to show recordings of previous conquests. Burning worlds, fleeing populations, entire species reduced to slavery or extinction. The message was clear. This was not a negotiation. "When we return," Zethkar continued, "we expect to find your surrender broadcast across all frequencies. Fail to comply, and we will turn your blue world into ash and your people into memories." The transmission ended, leaving the command center. In stunned silence, Elena took a deep breath, her mind already racing through possibilities. Around her, the staff waited for orders, their faces showing the same mix of fear and determination she had seen in countless battles before. But this was different. This wasn't pirates or rogue colonies. This was an empire that had conquered 1/3 of the galaxy. "Torres, open a channel to all Earth command stations," Elena said finally. "Priority Alpha encryption. Channel open." Admiral Elena straightened her shoulders. "All stations, this is Admiral Vasquez. As of 1347 hours, Earth is under direct threat from the HFY Empire. Initiate Protocol Omega immediately. All leave is cancelled. All personnel report to stations. This is not a drill." Across Earth's solar system, the response was immediate. Hidden bases on Mars powered up systems that had been dormant for years. The asteroid belt mining stations revealed their true purpose as military outposts bristling with weapons. Ships that had been disguised as civilian freighters suddenly unfolded into sleek destroyers. For 50 years, since first contact with other species had revealed the dangers of the galaxy Earth had been preparing. While the HFY had been watching humanity spread across the solar system, They had failed to notice what humanity was really building. 3 levels below Lunar Station, Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood in the heart of Project Prometheus, humanity's most classified military program. The chamber was vast, filled with the humming energy of fusion reactors and the gleaming hulls of ships that officially didn't exist. "Sarah, we need Prometheus online now." Elena's voice came through the intercom. "Understood, Admiral," Sarah replied, her hands already moving across the control panels. Prometheus ships were designed for this exact scenario. All 12 vessels are ready for immediate deployment. The Prometheus fleet was humanity's secret weapon. Ships built with technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien vessels and powered by fusion cores that generated more energy than entire star systems. They were fast, deadly, and completely invisible to most sensor systems. But more importantly, they were crewed by humans who had grown up knowing that someday someone would try to take their home. Commander Kai Chen felt the familiar weight of his combat armor as he suited up in the Phoenix Squadron Ready Room. Around him, his team of elite soldiers performed their own preparations with practiced efficiency. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were volunteers from every nation on Earth, trained for one purpose: to ensure that humanity never bowed to any alien threat. "Listen up," Kai addressed his team as they gathered around the tactical display. "The Kethva think they're dealing with another primitive species. They think fear will make us kneel like all the others. They're about to learn why you never threaten Earth." The soldiers nodded grimly. They had studied the Kethva for years, preparing for this day. They knew the enemy's tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. More importantly, they knew that they were fighting not just for Earth, but for every species the Kethva had enslaved or destroyed. On the bridge of the Kethva mothership, War Master Zethkar waited for the expected response. In his experience, species always reacted the same way to the ultimatum. First came panic, then desperate attempts at negotiation, finally submission. The pattern had repeated itself across 1,000 worlds. But as the hours passed, something unusual happened. Earth remained silent. "War Master," reported his communications officer, "we are detecting no panic responses from the human worlds. No evacuation attempts, no surrender broadcasts. They appear to be continuing their normal activities." Zethkar S4 eyes narrowed. "Impossible. All species panic when confronted with our power. Scan their system again. Look for hidden bases, weapon platforms, anything we might have missed." The scans revealed exactly what they had seen before. A typical young civilization with basic space travel capabilities, primitive weapons, and no apparent military threat. What the Kethva sensors couldn't detect were the stealth systems humanity had spent decades perfecting. As the 60-hour mark approached, Zethkar grew increasingly frustrated. "Send a scout force to their 4th planet," he ordered. "Destroy one of their cities. Show them what resistance brings." 3 Kethva destroyers broke off from the main fleet, accelerating toward Mars. They were confident, expecting no real opposition from the humans. Primitive defenses. They were wrong. The first destroyer had barely entered the asteroid belt, when space itself seemed to explode around it. Massive energy beams, invisible until they struck, tore through the ship's armor like paper. The destroyer died in seconds, its crew never even seeing what killed them. The second ship managed to get off a distress call before 3 sleek human vessels materialized around it, their weapons charging. The Kethva captain tried to flee, but the human ships were impossibly fast. Within minutes, the destroyer was reduced to floating debris. The third ship turned back toward the main fleet, broadcasting everything it had witnessed. But it never made it home. A single human vessel, smaller than the destroyers it hunted, appeared directly in its path. One shot from its main cannon, and the third destroyer joined its companions in death. On the HFY mothership, the bridge erupted in chaos. "War Master, we've lost contact with the entire scout force." Zethkar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In 3,000 years of conquest, no primitive species had ever destroyed HFY ships. It was impossible. "Show me the recordings from the engagement," he demanded. The footage was brief but shocking. Human ships that moved like living things, weapons that struck without warning, tactics that showed not just advanced technology but brilliant strategic thinking. These were not the actions of a primitive species. "War Master," his tactical officer said quietly, "those human vessels, they're more advanced than our own." For the first time in his long military career, Zethkar felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. The humans had not responded with fear or surrender. They had responded with violence, swift and devastating. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Earth finally sent its reply. Not a surrender, not a plea for mercy, but a simple message broadcast across all frequencies. "To the HFY Empire, your ultimatum has been received and rejected. You came to our home expecting to find victims. You found humans instead. Leave now, or discover why Earth has never fallen to any invader." The message was delivered by Admiral Vasquez herself, her voice calm and steady. But behind that calm voice was the promise of something the HFY had never encountered: a species that would fight for its home with everything it had. Zethkar stared at the tactical display, watching as more human ships appeared on his sensors, not just around Earth, but throughout the solar system. Ships that had been hiding, waiting, preparing for this moment. The humans hadn't spent the 72 hours in panic. They had spent them preparing for war. And as the deadline expired, Zethkar realized that for the first time in 3 millennia, the HFY Empire had encountered a species that refused to be conquered. The war for Earth was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened their home. The fire unleashed. The silence following Earth's rejection of the ultimatum lasted exactly 30 seconds. Then, space around the HFY mothership erupted into chaos. War Master Zethkar watched in stunned disbelief as his supposedly superior sensors detected what appeared to be impossible: 12 massive human vessels, each nearly half the size of his own mothership, materializing from empty space. They hadn't been there moments before, yet now they surrounded his fleet in perfect formation. "How did they hide ships that large?" his tactical officer whispered, staring at the readings. That defied everything they knew about stealth technology. The answer came in the form of a new transmission from the largest human vessel. On the main screen appeared a human female in military uniform, her dark hair pulled back severely, her eyes cold as deep space. "This is Captain Miranda Cross of the UES Eternal Flame," the woman said, her voice carrying an authority that made even Zethkar's veteran crew take notice. "You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from our system. This is your only warning." Zethkar's rage overcame his shock. "Impossible. You are primitives. We are the HFY. We have conquered 1,000 worlds." Captain Cross smiled, but there was no warmth in it. 30 seconds just became 15. "Your choice," The War Master's pride would not allow retreat. All ships, attack formation. Show these insects why the galaxy fears us. The HFY fleet, over 200 strong, surged forward with weapons charging. They had overwhelmed countless civilizations with sheer numbers and firepower. But as they closed with the human vessels, something extraordinary happened. The 12 human ships didn't retreat or try to evade. Instead, they seemed to dance. The lead human vessel, the Eternal Flame, rolled impossibly fast for something its size, avoiding a barrage of plasma bolts that should have vaporized it. Its response was a single beam of brilliant blue energy that struck the nearest HFY destroyer. The alien ship didn't just explode, simply ceased to exist, vaporized so completely that not even debris remained. Around the fleet, the other human vessels moved with similar deadly grace. They fought like living things, each ship seeming to anticipate enemy movements before they happened. Their weapons fired with precision that bordered on the supernatural, each shot finding its target despite the chaos of battle. Within minutes, 50 HFY ships had been destroyed, and not a single human vessel showed so much as a scratch on its hull. Dr. Sarah Mitchell watched the battle from the safety of Lunar Station, her heart swelling with pride as her creations performed exactly as designed. The Prometheus ships weren't just advanced, they were revolutionary. Each vessel was equipped with quantum processors that could calculate thousands of tactical possibilities simultaneously, reactive armor that adapted to incoming weapons, and fusion cores that generated enough power to supply a small planet. But, most importantly, they were crewed by humans who had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. "Admiral," she reported to Elena Vasquez, "all Prometheus vessels are performing within optimal parameters. The enemy's conventional weapons can't penetrate our adaptive shielding." Elena nodded grimly as she watched the tactical display. "Good. But this is just the beginning. Sarah, initiate Phase 2. Across the solar system, humanity's true strength began to reveal itself. What the HFY had dismissed as mining stations in the asteroid belt suddenly unveiled massive railgun platforms. The civilian colonies on Mars opened to reveal missile silos containing weapons that could crack moons. The space elevators that connected Earth to its orbital platforms transformed into launch rails for fighter squadrons. For 50 years, humanity had been building not just for exploration, but for war. Every human in the solar system had grown up knowing that someday someone would try to take their home, and they had prepared accordingly. Commander Kai Chen led Phoenix Squadron in their assault on the HFY support ships. His team moved through space in powered armor that made them nearly invisible to enemy sensors, boarding alien vessels with a precision that spoke of countless hours of training. "Remember," he told his squad as they breached the hull of a HFY cruiser, "we're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every species these monsters have enslaved." The interior of the alien ship was a maze of dark corridors and alien architecture, but Chen's team moved through it like they had built it themselves. They had studied captured HFY vessels for decades, memorizing every possible layout and weakness. The alien crew they encountered fought with desperate fury, but they were facing soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Phoenix Squadron disabled the ship's weapons, captured its navigation data, and escaped before the crew even realized what had happened. Similar operations were taking place throughout the HFY fleet. Human Special Forces teams were crippling enemy vessels from within while the Prometheus ships kept the main fleet occupied. It was a coordinated assault that demonstrated not just superior technology, but superior tactics and training. On the bridge of his mothership, War Master Zethkar watched his fleet being systematically destroyed and felt something he had never experienced in 3,000 years of conquest. "Fear, War Master," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 of our remaining ships. They're asking permission to withdraw." Zethkar's forearms trembled with rage and disbelief. "Impossible, Kethva. Do not surrender. We do not retreat." But even as he spoke, he could see the tactical situation deteriorating. The human ships were not just winning, they were dominating. Every tactical decision his commanders made was anticipated and countered. Every weapon they fired was absorbed or deflected. It was as if the humans could see the future. In reality, they could. The quantum processors aboard the Prometheus vessels were analyzing every aspect of Kethva tactics in real time, predicting enemy actions with uncanny accuracy. Combined with the human crew's natural adaptability and combat instincts, it created a fighting force that was nearly unbeatable. As the battle raged, news of the conflict spread across the galaxy. On a dozen worlds enslaved by the Kethva, alien populations watched in amazement as their oppressors were systematically defeated by a species most had never heard of. On Zerion Prime, a world conquered by the Kethva just 50 years earlier, the native Zirioni watched the battlefields with growing hope. Elder Vashtar, who had lived through his people's conquest, wept as he saw Kethva ships burning in space. "Is it possible?" he whispered to his grandson. "Can someone actually defeat them?" Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. Species that had given up hope of ever being free watched as humanity did the impossible. The humans weren't just fighting the Kethva, they were winning. The tide of battle turned completely when Captain Cross made a decision that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Instead of simply destroying the Kethva fleet, she opened a channel to the mothership. "War Master Zethkar," she said, her voice carrying across space to the alien commander. "Your fleet is broken. Your ships are burning. You can surrender now, or you can join them in death. But before you choose, know this. We have recordings of every world you've conquered, every species you've enslaved, every atrocity you've committed in the name of your empire." Zethkar snarled, but his response lacked its earlier confidence. "You think you can threaten the Kethva? We are eternal. We are finished," Cross interrupted. "But we're not just going to destroy you. We're going to free every world you've conquered. We're going to liberate every species you've enslaved. And we're going to make sure the galaxy knows that bullies like you can be defeated." As if to emphasize her point, the Eternal Flame's main guns charged with a sound that could be felt through the hull of every ship in the area. The target was clear, the Kethva mothership itself. For the first time in his long career, Zeth felt the cold touch of mortality. His ship, once the terror of the galaxy, was helpless before these impossible humans. "Wait," he said, his voice losing its commanding tone. We can negotiate. The Kethva are willing to discuss terms. Captain." Cross's smile was predatory. "The time for negotiation passed when you threatened Earth. But I'll make you a deal. You can surrender unconditionally, stand trial for your crimes, and spend the rest of your life helping us free the worlds you've conquered. Or ... The main guns of the Eternal Flame completed their charging cycle, bathing space in brilliant blue. "Light, or you can burn with your ship. Your choice." The surrender of the Kethva Empire took place 17 minutes later. War Master Zethkar himself broadcast the order to all remaining Kethva forces throughout the galaxy: cease all hostile actions and prepare for occupation by human forces. It was the first time in galactic history that the Kethva had ever surrendered. But humanity's response to victory was what truly shocked the galaxy. Instead of enslaving their defeated enemies or claiming Kethva territory for themselves, the humans immediately began organizing liberation fleets. Every world conquered by the Kethva would be freed. Every species enslaved would be returned to their homeworlds. Admiral Elena Vasquez addressed the galaxy from Lunar Station. Her words, broadcast to every inhabited world, to all species listening: Earth does not seek conquest. We do not desire your worlds or your resources. We fought the Kethva because they threatened our home and because they threatened the innocent. Today, we offer our hand in friendship to all peaceful species and our promise of protection to those who cannot protect themselves. She paused, her eyes hardening. But let this be a warning to any who might follow the Kethva's path. Earth remembers its friends, and it never forgets its enemies. We are human. We do not kneel. We do not break. And we will never, ever let bullies terrorize the innocent while we draw breath. The message was clear. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as protectors. They had faced the greatest military threat in galactic history, and not just survived, but emerged victorious in the days that followed. As human fleets spread across the galaxy to liberate Kethva-occupied worlds, a new phrase began to spread. Among the freed populations, when someone asked how Earth had achieved the impossible, the answer was always the same: they're human. That's what humans do. And across the galaxy, in councils and parliaments and ruling chambers, a new understanding emerged. Earth was no longer just another species struggling for survival. They were the species you called when survival itself was at stake. The age of human dominion over the galaxy had begun not through conquest, but through the simple act of standing up to those who preyed on the weak. The Kethva had come expecting to find victims. Instead, they found humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same.